Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. Big news. The Flash is back this week and they're finishing filming the finale. Most of the cast is almost done finishing episode 23. So far, I've only seen Danielle Panabaker tweet, had my last day on The Flash this season. It's been awesome. I'll see you guys next season. It doesn't mean that they're completely done filming the finale. It's just that certain actors finish their final scenes before other actors. So like Grant Gustin might have a whole bunch of other Barry scenes to film for the finale. So not everybody's done yet, but they're really close. David Ramsey also did the same thing where he tweeted, "Last day on Arrow Season 4, can't wait till Season 5. Stephen Amell still riding his tricycle around setting up shots. So a couple days left before Arrow and Flash go on break for the summer. Now the funny thing about that too, maybe I'll talk about it a little bit at the end of the video, is that just because the actors wrap doesn't mean that the show stops working, because the writers will start pitching next season, so there's a bunch of exciting stuff happening. But Jay Garrick, or Teddy Sears, or Zoom, or however you want to think about him, the actor who plays Zoom, was teasing things about the finale. He talked about the mystery of the man in the Iron Mask. We learned that he's not actually going to take that Iron Mask off till the finale, but I think by that time we'll have a pretty good idea of who he is. Next week's episode is all about Zoom's backstory, explaining how he became so crazy, so I think that'll give us a lot more clues about who's in the Iron Mask. But right now, before having seen any of the final episodes, I'll say that, the best theory I've seen is that it's the true version of Jay Garrick. We've seen the trailer for next week's episode, but just to explain what the Flash is doing, it's actually really cool. They're kind of doing their version of a crime serial next week, where they explain how a normal person turns into a serial killer. If you are a big fan of crime serials, it's a little closer to that Netflix series, How to Make a Murderer, than it is to like The Jinx. The Jinx is that HBO series about Robert Durst. It's a good example of how a psychopath, like a real psychopath with unlimited money, can escape the law. And on the flip side of that, How to Make a Murderer is a good example of how the law can railroad the poor. Now, The Flash isn't doing any of those stories literally or anything like that. It's just asking the question, what would have happened to Barry had his life been super shitty? Now, he had some shitty things happen to him, but he had good people around him. He had Joe take him in. What would have happened to Barry if he didn't have any of those good things in his life? That's going to be next week's episode, explaining how Zoom turned into a serial killer because he didn't have any of those good things or any of those good people helping him out. So part of the fun is going to be actually watching those moments, flashing back to Zoom's life, seeing him in this Hannibal Lecter outfit in prison. Already I'm seeing some Flashpoint Easter eggs here. Then once they explain Zoom, the real job is finding whether or not there's a solution to this. Do they contain him? Do they fix him? Is there a way to fix them? Is that even possible? Like, is Barry going to go back in time and change his past so that something good happens to him? Because that's also super risky. 2 times we found out really bad things happen when you time travel. One, Eobard Thawne told us that time will replace, whatever it is that you're trying to skip over with something that's just as bad. So if Barry goes back and saves Zoom, something bad will still end up happening to Zoom at a certain point. In number 2, we also learned about time wraiths, which is kind of like the TV show's version of the Black Flash. Barry going back in time to save Hunter Zolomon as a child, save him from something bad happening to him, could also cause more immediate problems for Barry in the form of a time wraith. So let me know in the comments, without having seen the rest of the episodes, is there a way Barry could go back in time and fix Zoom's past, fix Hunter Zolomon's past, so that he doesn't turn into Zoom? Or do you think that Hunter Zolomon is going to end up like Trajectory and just get absorbed into the Speed Force as pure energy because he takes too much Velocity 9? Usually when you think about finales, you have to think about what the most spectacular and satisfying conclusion is. So 1, it has to look awesome, and 2, it has to feel like it makes sense. So I feel like you could redeem Zoom with some really careful time travel. I think the more cynical scenario, and one that's also pretty thrilling, is that he just goes up in a blaze of Speed Force glory and gets turned into pure energy. He just gets absorbed into the Speed Force. That way he could totally come back in a future season. He could rematerialize his energy in the form of another person. What I'd really like to see them do, though, is resolve the finale in a way that fixes the Jay Garrick character so that we get a good version of Jay Garrick that can work with Barry Allen. And a lot of that is going to depend on whether or not the man in the Iron Mask is the real Jay Garrick. Because if a real version of Jay Garrick exists, then you can kill off Hunter Zolomon in a really spectacular way without losing Jay Garrick. But if Hunter Zolomon is the only version of Jay Garrick on Earth 2, then you have to find a way to fix him so that you can still use Jay Garrick. But the other really cool thing that's coming up is Kevin Smith's episode. He's been teasing the end of it, so I'm going to explain what he said and what I think it means. So just careful for potential spoilers for stuff that's coming up. He said some very vague things, but it was pretty easy to figure out what he was saying. So he directed episode 21. We know episode 22 is going to be the Black Siren episode with Katie Cassidy. Episode 23 is the finale. So he said the teaser at the end of his episode is this wide shot of all these villains lined up with Zoom. So what I think that means is that Zoom is just going to lead an all-out assault with many metahumans on Earth-1 sometime in episode 22 or episode 23. He didn't really specify how it was happening, like if Cisco was vibing all these villains teaming up, or if somebody else was looking at it, or if it was like a cut-to scene and nobody on Team Flash knew that it was happening. But it just means there's going to be a big battle royale sometime in the last couple of episodes. And that makes me wonder if that's going to happen in episode 22, if Black Siren is going to be in that big lineup, the big teaser at the end of episode 21. So just put a bookmark in that for now, because that episode is still weeks and weeks away. We're only on episode 18 right now, The Flash. Arrow's still on break this week. So in 2 weeks when we get Flash episode 19, right after that will be Arrow episode 19. The episodes won't be out of order anymore. But giveaway time, there's a new round of the DC giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber, leave a comment on this video. It's just a $20 Amazon gift card. I'll be doing another DC video later tonight for the Batman solo film, so I'll just remind everyone whenever I post that. And I know they just announced a new big speedster villain in the comics, but I'm not quite ready to talk about that. It's not super relevant to what's going on in the Flash TV show right now. The new villain is going to be called Godspeed. He has a really interesting origin story, so I'll talk about him in a future video. While you guys wait for me to post that video, you can click here to watch the Winter Soldier run the Avengers Gauntlet, and you can click here to learn all about the Spider-Man solo film, Spider-Man Homecoming. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.